It's classic Sk8 Mag. The Future of Skateboarding, Ocean Howell. Now the story goes like this. I'm just going to have to read this big chunk of the story. The Future of Skateboarding by Ocean Howell, Slap Magazine, January 2000. As city officials grow wiser to the ways of skaters, will urban street skating survive the 21st century? Public open space may look nice, but it has inherent security problems. End quote from a Los Angeles city planner who is quoted on the condition of anonymity in the book Urban Design Downtown. How's this for a catchy opening line? The Freudian psychoanalyst and philosopher Jacques Lacan said that everything is divided between three orders: the imaginary, the symbolic, and the real, and that it is the interaction between these three categories which makes up human reality. Dope, huh? Makes you want to read more? Well, read it anyway, because I have to explain this for 2 paragraphs before I can explain how city planners are threatening urban street skating. So let's start over. Jacques Lacan said that everything is divided up between 3 orders: the imaginary, the symbolic, and the real, and that it is the interaction between these 3 categories which makes up human reality. Despite its name, the imaginary is kind of boring, so we won't worry about that here. It's the symbolic and the real that we're concerned with, and the symbolic is order and structure, reason and logic. In contrast, the real is what undermines the symbolic order. It is what cannot be subsumed by the symbolic. The residue of irrationality that persists within any rational structure, it is the inevitable wrench in the machine. It is what refuses to be symbolized. Every symbol has a real, and the real can only exist in relation to a symbol. So let's take the symbolic order of medicine as an example. Antibiotics are prescribed to kill infectious bacteria, but the bacteria eventually develop resistance, mutate, and come back even stronger than before. Medicine will never cure every disease because the diseases themselves change forms. So in this case, the real is disease or pathology. As soon as you think you've contained or explained the real, it simply changes forms. It shouldn't surprise any skateboarder that those things that are considered public nuisances, drug dealing, homelessness, and skateboarding, are referred to as, quote, urban pathologies, end quote, in the literature of city planners. In its relationship to the symbolic order of urban design, skateboarding occupies the position of the real. Since the late 80s and early 90s, when modern street skating was born, architects and landscapers have tried to design plazas that take skateboarding into account, predict its evolutions, and contain it. The first attempts were hilarious. What sort of meatball tries to wreck a nice slippery ledge by putting an even more slippery square bar on top of it? It was as though they'd never even watched anyone actually skateboarding. We slid right over nubs on rails, and even when they succeeded in wrecking something slippery, we just turned whatever ugly mess they created into something to jump over. The logic of skateboarding completely eluded them, and despite all their efforts, continuously appeared to city planners as so much chaos. To make sense of the chaotic and versatile real is to control it. So far, the symbolic of city planning has had no luck understanding skateboarding. But lately it seems like things are changing a little. Have you noticed that you don't skate downtown as much as you used to? More often you head out to schoolyards, parks in the suburbs, the 1 or 2 as of yet ungentrified neighborhoods where drunks hang out. Sure, you get chased by security guards and get ticketed by cops in the financial district more than ever before, and sometimes you're seriously just not in the mood to deal with it. But there's something else happening now. There's only so much that outright policing can accomplish. I was skating with at least 15 other people in Union Square, downtown San Francisco, late one night a few years ago. The cops drove right through the center of the square, like they did almost every night, and we all scattered. Matt Field and I went up north on Stockton, which is the wrong way up a one-way street, so they left us alone and chased everyone who went down Stockton instead. A young couple in expensive evening wear were walking by. The man asked me what in the hell the cops were doing. Quote, "I can't believe they just did that. They could have run one of you over. You should report that." End quote. They were exactly the sort of people who would usually glare at you and point you out to a security guard in any corporate plaza downtown. Anyone who has been hassled by the cops at Pier 7 can tell you that passerbys will sometimes sympathize with you. It is always around the real that you can see the cracks in the symbolic order. It is around the real that you are granted a glimpse of the symbolic's failings and hypocrisies. When cops and security guards have to physically enforce the law, it doesn't work as well. All of a sudden, any average passerby can see the criminality of the cops themselves. The cops look like scary hoods, and the skaters just look like kids having fun, practicing their art, or however you want to describe it. All of a sudden, any privileged from Silicon Valley slumming in the city is given a demonstration of the violence and classism of urban public cleansing. They still have to chase you out of Union Square to keep the area safe for the customers of the new Levi's store, but the guards don't ever have to worry about that at Brown Marble. That's because there's no brown marble there anymore. Just limestone benches with built-in armrests every 18 inches. It would never even occur to you to skate there anymore. There's nothing to skate. Now there's a Starbucks-owned Posca coffee stand and herds of Banana Republic-wearing young professionals eating wraps. For the first time, the policing is built into the design itself, not added on like bars and a ledge, or the unnatural, inappropriate garden that they put in to wreck the run-up to the banker's heart sculpture at Black Rock, the Bank of America. The policing is in the design itself, and none of those young professionals even have to be aware that other people, those who are not either upscale shoppers or employees of the surrounding corporations, are intentionally being kept out. Anyone who's seen the new plaza that they're constructing in front of the Philip Burton Federal Building in San Francisco has salivated over it. In my opinion, you couldn't have designed a skate park much better. Huge banks everywhere, some steep, some mellow, hips, spines, high bars, low bars, bars with corners, ollie bumps. It's beautiful. But I walked by it a few days ago and saw that they were building metal benches with armrests every 18 inches into the bottom of one of those banks. I went to the library and I researched it. Turns out, the Government Services Administration chose that plaza design because it was the winner of a contest they co-sponsored with the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. The title of the contest was The Poetics of Security. The contest focused on making a place where employees would want to have lunch, one of the fundamental goals of urban design. They also talked about making a place that couldn't be bombed, like the Federal Building in Oklahoma. But looking at how well placed that bench is, it's clear the designers had skating in mind too. Particularly when you consider A, that people used to session rails at the old plaza, and B, how bad a job city planners have historically done in keeping us out. This bench is meticulously placed. You can't slide it, and it makes a huge, smooth bank completely unskateable. They're still in construction, so it's hard to tell, but it looks like they've left the majority of the objects open for shrapling? Open for shrapling. But one way or another, they're getting better at building the police force into the spots themselves. One of the judges of the contest said that all of the competing designs would improve not just a little corner of the city, but a little corner of our consciousness about our place in civic structure. They, quote, tell us something about who we are, where we are, and how our government appears to us, end quote. Given the exclusionist and xenophobic goals of the plaza design, keeping out terrorists, unemployed, homeless, and skateboarders, it's hard not to hear something ominous in the judge's statements. How should our government appear to us, given that the expressly stated theme of the plaza is a poetics of security? Does being excluded from public space with paranoid architectural designs really, quote, improve our consciousness about our place in civic structure, end quote? Or does it just put us in our place? There is an authoritarian overtone to the phrase, poetics of security. Anyone who has ever skated in a city knows that security necessitates excluding certain undesirable elements of society, which are people. Why not a poetics of community design concept? Because, as evidenced by every public space built in downtown areas in recent years, some members of the community are not allowed to participate in public spaces because the way they participate is not acceptable to other, more important members of the community. This is you. This is why urban skateboarders have been forcefully and now architecturally kept out of public spaces. This is why we see the poetics of security concept in action today. This is why skaters, with the possible exception of the homeless, have become architectural enemy number one. Think about your experiences skating in your own downtown in the last couple of years. Cops and security guards are cracking down, but the truly scary part is that they're now skate-proofing spots as part of an original plan. Ever since the Reagan administration, cities spend less and less money on public works, but 4 out of every 5 new corporate plazas in downtown LA and San Fran are co-funded by the cities themselves. Cities are no longer building urban parks and squares. Instead, they're giving public funds, our tax dollars, to corporations on the condition that the corporations provide the public space. So the move is from parks and squares to gallerias and mini malls. And this is f***ed up. It means that public space is no longer strictly public. It is now designed to accommodate only a specific subset of the public. It is designed to meet the needs of private interests, to attract and facilitate the flow of money, and to keep out any elements that might impede that flow. And when you consider the exclusionist architecture of the few remaining public spaces like in the SF Federal Building, it is clear that this trend will only get worse with the privatization of downtown. The days of lounging at EMB and skating in peace with your friends are over. EMB is strictly volleyball courts and ice skating rinks, and shoppers and brown baggers from here on out. The prevailing aesthetic in downtowns is now a poetics of security. Skateboarding is the real in relation to the symbolic of the downtown. It takes ugly, somber corporate plazas and makes them interesting by undermining their design. It provides an opportunity for average people to see cops for the thugs they really are. It forces planners to make their structures look ridiculous and violent by covering them with knobs and spikes. It is always around the real that you can see the cracks in the symbolic. Just like you can always see the failings of medicine by looking at the diseases it cannot contain. But it is part of the nature of the symbolic to always try to make sense of the real. Once they understand skateboarding, they can control it. This trend has a close parallel in the media. Skating is being increasingly banned on the Embarcadero, but it's okay to have skating in the exact same place, provided it's caged in the zoo-like X Games, provided it's televised and sponsored by ABC and AT&T. The Marines had a booth at the X Games. Skating is even a subject for high culture. Now with the recent article in the New Yorker trying to make sense of skateboarding with endless ballet comparisons. Tony Hawk is really just Baryshnikov, and Ollie, it turns out, is exactly like a Pelé. Whatever the heck they call it. Then there are the new Sprite and Nike commercials. The story that Sprite commercials tell us is, hey bro, aren't you sick of corporations lurking around skateboarding as if they have any business being here, trying to make you buy all that soda, as if that'll make you better at skating? We're sick of it too, and that's why you should buy Sprite. Nike sales went up considerably among skaters after their campaign of ads about how it's lame that our sport is illegal. Skaters didn't buy Nike before, but once Nike could make sense of the logic of skating, it could convince us to give our money to a huge corporation instead of companies founded and run by other skaters. Nike has never cared about skateboarders except a demographic. It's not as though Nike suddenly saw the situation of skateboarders and began to sympathize with us. They simply hired an advertising firm to design that entire ad campaign. The firm, Goodby, Silverstein, and Partners, the Got Milk people, is comprised of anthropology PhDs. You are being studied, and your sport, quote-unquote, is being trivialized, thematized, and confined. It's the same story as with urban design. It's a poetics of security. The closer the symbolic gets to understanding the real, the sooner it can subsume it and control it. Urban planners are getting better and better at curing pathologies like skateboarding. If we don't pay attention, skating will change from a unique urban expression to a strictly YMCA-regulated activity, from an explicit rejection of canned mass media entertainment to a tool for selling you soda and enlisting you in the Marines. They don't have it right yet, but they're getting better at it. You should be worried. Ocean Howell, Prophetic Warning, The Future of Skateboarding, from Slap, January 2000.
150 years ago, the business corporation was a relatively insignificant institution. Today, it is all-pervasive. Like the church, the monarchy, and the Communist Party in other times and places, the corporation is today's dominant institution. This documentary examines the nature, evolution, impacts, and possible futures of the modern business corporation.
Well, maybe you better incorporate the store.
Incorporate?
Yes. Incorporating would give you the big advantage of what you want right now. Limited liability.
I'm in outer space with a microphone.
so scoop it as I unfold the groove, tune in and not drop out, not to cop out, the post beers remove music. This wealthy cat was moving, stack of cash in sports cruiser, major accent deals mover, promoted fast like homeschoolers. Then noticing one day some bills that went unpaid, those crumbs they led one way, discovered some unfun game, Then he was called into a meeting to disrupt and expose, but that was the day that the world froze. So stuck in the traffic and then caught in the panic, he dipped out in a frantic speed to exceed the seed planted at the event, and what would soon come, connecting dots to be revealed in Project Constellation. Big props to Maria, broadcasted that's where I'd hear and get hooked on the name of Richard Grove. What he's saying is hypnotic, synchronicity came out like chronic, all in full stride, compadres around all sides, seeking sources to provide solution. The heavy-handed knowledge is Willie saying the peace revolution, never knowing I was missing a blessing. The heaviest session recorded and revealed the ultimate history lesson in this quest, and I'm a Midwestern who's rocking it dope. Subscribe to media produced by tragedy and hope, and if you didn't know the gift, and here's what you've been missing, and listening is where conviction is revealed in descriptions in a brain model. Don't come out hollow, but full throttle, and dive in the deep end so history doesn't repeat, and make it complete. Catch Grand Theft World every week with Richard and Tony, chop it up with the homies, and I ain't talking about that public school baloney. In a sec you should know me, quoting Gatto in the flow that I'm growing, and LD's bearded is showing the time capsule stack of stats is open. So spread it around, the show is ready to pounce, audience that abounds, seeking out what's profound. I know it is challenging fallacies in the balance when a forensic story in it, boring men while exhorting in examination, contemplation, meditation, revelation, celebration, destinations planned, targets arrived. Autonomy crew of souls that survive, broke free from the 9 to 5, and we doing it live. Hey, with hope in our flow, where consciousness grows, as opposed to
you don't have to think about it, dude.
Cause it's a comedy show that be bombing truth, whoa, trying to make uncommon truths be more commonly known. That it's a grand theft world that I'm living in, ain't no reptilian skin, just some normal humans who love to sin. From their banking powers they aim to win, deceive and betray all man, making everyone slaves to them. It's a grand theft world that I'm peering at, disguised like a pyramid. For those tuning in, they be feeling that, revealing that things ain't what they seem, so I'm fighting back and digging jack, obtaining knowledge, wisdom, and artifacts, yeah, neglected aspect, that's what they lack. Yo, Trivium course, it'll deal with that, be a rebel, bring the logic back, cause it's a grand theft world that they rolling out. Got the growth model out, tracing Rockefeller dollars straight to clouds. SEC connections are hard to doubt, but most go the common route, walking with their head in the shroud. Yo, it's a grand theft world that I'm peering at, disguised like a pyramid. But those tuning in, they be feeling that, revealing that things ain't what they seem, so I'm fighting back and digging jack, obtaining knowledge, wisdom, and artifacts. You should know, it's not a video game.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
This is Grand Theft World.
All right, LD.
It's a Grand Theft World that I'm peering at in the sky like a pyramid. For those tuning in, they'd be feeling it, revealing that things ain't what they seem, so I'm fighting back and digging jack, obtaining knowledge, wisdom, and artifacts.
Today's show is brought to us by the Autonomy Agora marketplace, where you will find a group of courses that are changing people's lives. More courses are added each quarter, and it's becoming a standard for peer-to-peer skill sharing. So go look at the current offers. I'm sure there's something for you. The link is in the description.